Hello and welcome to Learn Data. It's great to have you back. I'm Nilesh, and in this video we'll continue learning about Pandas and GroupBy. Specifically, here we'll look at how to filter data or data frame or series using GroupBy. We'll also look at the function filter that can be used along with GroupBy to filter dataset. So let's get into Jupyter Notebook and start coding. Here I've already created a new notebook and imported two libraries, NumPy and Pandas. And for data, we have this data frame with couple of columns such as fruits. So fruits, grade, Q, then price and quantity. So the first three columns will mostly use them for grouping, and then the last two numeric columns will use them to do the arithmetic on. So the first command that we'll look at today is filter, and how we can use filter to get a subset of the data in the data frame. So using dot filter, we'll use the data frame df. So first we'll try to see how we can use the sum to filter data frame. So to do that, we'll type df.groupby, or if we follow the convention from previous video, we can create the groupby object first, which is df.groupby and then q. That's the column we are using to group on, and then I'm going to use the series price here. Next, we can use the filter on this group object. So g.filter, and inside of the parenthesis we will specify a function that checks if the sum of the group, each of those groups, is greater than a number. So we'll use the lambda function, and if the lambda function, then x dot sum is greater than 35. So what we are checking is within Q there are groups 1 and 2. There are only two groups. So out of those two groups, what the x dot sum would do is it will sum the values of price for each of these. For example, for group 1, it will sum 10, then 7, 9, 1 and 11, and then see if it's greater than 35, and if it is, then it will return the group in the output. Otherwise that group would not be returned in the output. So when we run this, we can see that we get 10, 7, 9, 1 and 11. So that's group 1 that we got back. So if we look at g.groups, here we get the index. We do not get the actual numbers of price. So we can check that. For the group 2, we have 12 plus 3, 15 plus 2, 17, 17 plus 13. So we have 30, and 30 is less than 35, and therefore that group is not returned in the output. And this is therefore what we have. Similar to using a sum, we can use another parameter. We can use length, or there are several other parameters that can be used. We are going to look at length right now. So again, we can go ahead and create the object first, grouped object, df dot group by, and we'll group again on the column q, and also use the same column price. So here, if we use the filter, now we can specify within the lambda function x, length of x. So if length of x is greater than, let's say, 4, then return the group back. What this is going to do is it's going to check if there are more than 4 elements within each of the groups 1 and 2 in column q. So column q, we can see that the group 1 occurs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So it's greater than 4, so it should be returned. and then for the group 2 we have 1, 2, 3, 4, only 4, so it's not greater than 4, and therefore again we would expect that just the values from group 1 for price are returned, and that's exactly what we get. And this is the same as what we had earlier when we looked at the sum as use for filter. Next, we can even, so here what we see is a truncated output where we do not get all the rows back. The group that did not match, we do not get those rows back. So to avoid that behavior, what we can do is specify within the filter function dropna is equal to false. When we specify that, what we get is we get the entire series back, and within that series those groups that do not satisfy the criteria, in this case length x greater than 4, those appear as nans, and that's the group 2 which is appearing as nans here. Next, let's look at how we can use head and filter. So dot head and dot tail, to filter a data set. In all the previous videos you've probably known where we use dot head to get the default first 5 rows, or we can use tail to get the last 5 rows. Again, if you want to specify a number in there, we can get maybe 2, or if we do a head we can get the first 2 rows in there. Now we can use the same concept when we use it along with GroupBy. What that does is, let's say we have this data frame df, and in this data frame if we group on the column fruits, and we are looking to get only the first 2 records for each of the groups, then we would expect the group mango would have just these first 2 rows, then for orange again these 2 rows, and then these would be excluded. For banana we'll have the index 4 and then the index 7, all others would be excluded from the output. So let's run that and see what we get. To type, I'm going to use the direct notation. Instead of creating a separate GroupBy object G, I'll type GroupBy and then let's use fruits and dot head, so we can use it directly here. So what I'm not doing here is typing this. So instead of typing this, I'm directly typing df.groupby fruits, and here I have head is equal to 2. So look at the output, we see that only the first 2 rows for each of those groups are returned because we specified head with the number 2. Now if we go back and copy this and look at the tail, if we specify tail 2, then we get the last 2. So for the last 2 for mango would be the index 5 and we have index 1, so 5 and 1, so that's what we should get, 5 and 1. So that's what we have in the output. So that's one way to filter a data set using the head and tail commands along with GroupBy. Next, let's look at how we can use the GroupBy method again to fill missing values. And to fill missing values, you probably guessed, we'll use the function fillna dot fillna. So again we'll use the data frame df, and now what we'll do is we'll create a copy of that, so df1, and the reason for that is we'll create some missing values inside the data frame. So let's pull the data frame again, and here what we can do is use the df.lock, and let's say for position 2 and 4, rows 2 and 4, rows at index 2 and 4, and for the column price we'll go ahead and set this as NaN. Now if we look at df1, we see that we put NaNs at index 2 and 4 for the column price, which previously there was data in there. Now once we have that, we can use the fillna to put values in place of the NaNs. So df1.groupBy, and we'll use the column fruits for grouping, and we'll go ahead and set as index is equal to false. If you remember from previous videos, what this does is it won't convert this fruits column to index, and it will keep it as a column in the output. Dot fillna, and the method that we're going to use here is forward fill. What forward fill does is it looks at the previous value. Let's say for orange there's no previous value here, so probably it's going to be NaN, and same thing for banana, it would be NaN. Let's run this and see what we get. Yes, that's what happened. So if we put Q instead, then we can see that for Q, the group 1, there is a value before that for group 1 in price, and the value is 10. So we would expect that this 10 value gets forward fill into this one, and for the group that was for group 1, and for group 2 we have a previous value of group 2 as 12 for price, and that would get forward fill here in place of NaN. So let's run this now with Q in place, and that's what we see right here. So the 12 is, so let's go up, so the 10 is forward fill in position index 2, and for index row 4 where there was NaN, it has 12, which is forward fill from the price at index 1. Next, let's look at how we can find the smallest and largest numbers for each of the groups. So largest and smallest, and thus we can filter the data frame. So we'll go ahead and create a grouped object using the data frame df. So g is equal to df.groupBy, and we'll go ahead and use the fruits column. Now once we have the grouped object, we can go ahead and use that with the price column to find the nlargest. So we can specify the number, let's say 2. What this would do is it gives us the largest 2 prices for each of the fruits group from the data frame df. Let's check that. For mango, let's find what the largest 2 values are for price. We have 10, 12, and we have yes, so those 2 are the largest, and that's what we get in the output. Similarly for banana, which is right here, we have 3, 11 and 13. So 11 and 13 are the largest, and those are the 2 that we get here in the output. So that's how largest work. And you've probably guessed there is a smallest also. So if you type n smallest, then we get the smallest numbers for each of the groups. So for mango, again, we can go back up here and look. So we have mango 10, 12 and 1. So 1 and 10 are back. So that's what we see here in the output, 1 and then 10. Those 2 values are what we get in the output. Next, let's look at how we can use the GroupBy along with apply function. So I'm going to use markdown here to create new heading. Now we can go ahead and create a new grouped object. G is equal to df.groupBy, and let's use the fruits again. So now if we want to get the statistics, we know that we can use describe. So if we type g.describe for each of the groups and for each of the numeric columns, we get all the statistics such as count, mean, standard deviation, quartiles, etc. Now we can also use apply to get similar result. So let's try that. If we type g.apply, within apply, then we need to specify a function. So the function in this case, we are going to use the lambda function. So lambda x and x dot describe. What this does is, instead of x, if we type say group, what it doesn't make any difference, but this is more intuitive. What this does is the g sends in groups to apply, and then apply supplies the each group to the lambda function, and lambda function then calculates these statistics by dot describe for each of the groups and sends it back, and that's what we see in the output. So when we run this, we can see that for each of the groups, which is fruits, now that is banana, mango and orange, we see all the statistics listed here. Now you're probably wondering why the output here is arranged vertically, whereas this is arranged horizontally. Is there a difference? That can be changed. So this output, we can stack it. What I mean by that is, we can put these columns as stacked here in indices, row indices. So if you type dot stack, and this is level 0, which is the topmost column name, the one below it is level 1. So if you want to put those as row indices, we need to specify level is equal to 1. So when you put that, then as you can see, we get the same output that we got from the dot apply. For now, I'm gonna comment that out and leave this as is. So that's how we can use apply. So here we use the dot describe function. Now let's go ahead and create a custom function for using the GroupBy. Let's create a function called adjust. So adj, and it's going to take a variable x, and we are going to create what we are going to do is use the price column. So let's pull the data frame here. We have the price column. So what we are planning to do here is create a function that creates a new column of adjusted price, which is the price of this column subtracted by the mean price. Okay, so I will store that in a temporary variable temp. So pd.dataframe, and here let's go ahead and create column fruits, and that's the name we are going to get. So what x actually is a group. So if you specify group, that's fine too. You can specify group.name, and then we have the price, which is the original price for each of those groups, and that's is what we'll specify as is. And then we have price underscore adjusted mean. So this is what we will be calculating, which is let me go back and change that to x minus x dot mean. And so we thus have created a data frame with 3 columns. One is fruits, just so that we can reference to what the price belongs, and then we have the original price, we have the adjust mean subtracted price, and we'll return the temp from there. So that's our function. With this function, what we'll do now is use it with apply. So G will use the previous grouped object, which is this one, and here, because in that object we did not specify price, I'm gonna use price right here, and then dot apply adj. So as you can see, what we have got back is the data frame with 3 columns: fruits, price, and price adjusted mean. Now let's check for one of these if the price is what correct price that is calculated is makes sense. So for mango, which is this, we have the price which is 10. So let's go ahead and type here 10 plus 12 plus 1, I think that's it. So divided by 3. So the mean is 3. So we have mean, let's say mean is equal to 3. Now mean is equal to 7.667. Now if we subtract, so 10 minus mean, so we get 2.33, and that's what we get in the first column. And similarly, if we subtract 12, we get 4.33, and then for the index 5, we are going to subtract it from 1 and we get minus 6.667, and that's what we get here in the output. So that's how we can use a custom function along with apply and GroupBy to get new values from our data set. That was it for this video. I hope in this video you learned how to filter a data frame using different methods, get subset of the data frame, use apply to change values in a data frame using custom functions. In next video, we'll continue this discussion on GroupBy and look at some more ways GroupBy can be helpful in working with data frame and a series. Please like, share, and click the bell icon below this video to subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next video. Thank you.